The influence of partnering on ODOT construction projects. My name is Luke Johansson. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Ohio. I've worked for the Ohio Department of Transportation for 28 years. 24 of those years have been spent as a project engineer on construction projects here in Ohio, and 4 years as the highway management administrator, dealing with maintenance things in an 8-county region in northwest Ohio. I believe partnering, the definition of that would be the collaboration of all parties of a construction project to resolve any potential issues. The history of partnering goes back to the late 1980s, when worldwide the construction industry began to understand that there was some advantage to collaboration on construction projects to help solve problems and deal with any potential issues out there. In 1991, ODOT decided to try to use partnering on a construction project here at ODOT. Chris Engel was the District 5 construction engineer at the time in Eastern Ohio. They decided to use an intersection project in Eastern Ohio with Concosing Construction. With the influence of Don Conaway, the ODOT Deputy Director of Construction at ODOT Central Office, they decided to go ahead and try partnering on that project and see how things worked, knowing that that's kind of an up-and-coming thing around the country. My research objective is to find out if partnering is beneficial on ODOT construction projects. For many years, I've been going to partnering training in all over the state and finding that people mention things. You hear both positive and negatives about partnering. In this case, I just couldn't get a real consensus of how it actually, if it was actually beneficial or not, just based on people's response at these trainings. My research plan was to conduct a survey of about 500 people that had attended a partnering training put on by ODOT and the Ohio Contractors Association around the state of Ohio. I received about 173 responses at about 35% to that survey. I also interviewed Chris Engel, who is the Director of Public Agencies with the Ohio Contractors Association, the OCA. He also has about 35 years of experience on ODOT construction projects. The last 12 years with OCA, and the previous 22 years before that, he was actually with ODOT as a construction engineer and the deputy director in District 5 as well. The second interview was conducted with Chase Wells, who was an ODOT employee. He's worked with ODOT for about 8 years. The last 5 years as being ODOT Central Office liaison between ODOT and the construction industry on partnering issues. During the survey, the first question that was asked was, how many years of experience do you have on ODOT construction projects? About 35% of the people said that they had between 0 and 10 years of experience. Around 30% said 10 to 20 years. Around 25% or so said 20 to 30 years, and then about 10% said 30 plus years. So as you can see, we're a little bit heavier weighted on the 20 years and less. Around 65% of those responding were less than 20 years, and about 35% of those were less than 10 years. One of the questions was also whether you had been involved with self-facilitating partnering on ODOT projects. About 85% of the people responded said that they had been involved in self-facilitated partnering, which is about what you'd expect since in the last 5 or 6 years here, ODOT has put partnering, at least self-facilitated partnering, on all of our construction project by specification starting in 2012. So you would expect that most people have probably been involved at least at the self-facilitated partnering level. Self-facilitated partnering being that ODOT does their own partnering without a consultant. We, along with the contractor, do those things together to facilitate the partnering without the use of a consultant. The next question had to do with whether you had been on a consultant facilitated partnering with an ODOT project. About 55% of the people said that they had been on a consultant facilitated partnering, which would be where ODOT uses these are more complex projects projects probably at the $10 million plus range is probably where the consultant facilitator would come in. So as our survey, people had less than 20 years, most of them. You'd probably understand that the level of people responding to this survey would probably not be involved in the $10 million plus. So you can understand why they're not quite as many on this category. Of the people that were surveyed, about 85% believe that self-facilitated partnering is probably the most beneficial for ODOT projects. Although consultant facilitated partnering is certainly beneficial. Certainly on our more complex and our higher dollar contracts that you can see where there's benefit in a consultant to help keep things on track and keep things narrowed down to the topics at hand. Some of the items that were most improved according to the recipients of the survey. Open communication being number one. Over 90% of the people thought that open communication is what was helped with partnering, followed by project first mentality, which is kind of an ODOT buzzword that means that we're going to all decisions we make are going to be based on the project, not on personalities or personal opinion. It's going to be based on what's best for the project. So that seems to have helped quite a bit too. Those are probably the top two. There are a number of other things that were probably improved, but those are probably the top two things that were improved by the use of partnering. How beneficial is partnering on ODOT projects? This is a sliding scale, 0 being not important at all, not beneficial. Going to 100, which means very beneficial, was the way it was worded. As you can see, most people thought that it was on the very beneficial end of the scale at a number of about 80. This is, like I said, a sliding scale. People thought that up to about 80 is the number that they think towards the very beneficial end of this scale. An interview was conducted with Chris Engel. Again, he was an ODOT employee for 22 years, up to the level of district deputy director. As in the last 12 years, he has been the director of public agencies for the Ohio Contractors Association. He has about 35 years experience on ODOT construction projects, or dealing with them at least. He has a real good gauge of what the contracting industry feels and how as he talks with the owners and things on a pretty frequent basis, how they feel about these things. And he feels that ODOT is committed to partnering, which they feel is very beneficial, that ODOT believes in the system and is really trying to make this work. He believes that there's some improvements that could be made. We could use do our initial partnering sessions combined with our pre-construction meetings would be very, very beneficial, to try not to have people come back and try to just create more time on most of our small projects less than 10 million. He also believes that there's been a reduction in step 3 claims. Step 3 at the step 3 level of our claims process. Step 1 being at the project level, step 2 being at the district level, and step 3 being our central office level. He believes that there's been a reduction, at least at the central office level, of these, and he thinks this is a result of partnering and solving problems at the step 1 and step 2 level, which is an advantage of partnering. So overall, I think he believes that partnering is beneficial. The next interview was conducted by Chase Wells was the interviewer. He believes that that the evolution of partnering since 1991 has been ODOT chose our projects back then based on complexity and the dollar amounts of the projects, and then just picked out project that they thought partnering would work best on. That started in 1991, like I said back at the beginning. And since then, up to 2011, that's the way we chose projects. Then starting in 2012, we actually added partnering into our specifications, which we think was a very important step at that point. We added it in by supplemental specification in 2012, and then 2013 it became part of our spec book, actually. So all projects at ODOT will be, at this point, will be partnered, at least at some sort of self-facilitated partnering. So we think it's beneficial. He says he thinks that the communication at the project level has improved by the use of partnering. which helps reduce time and probably save some money for both ODOT and the contractor. He does have some numbers on the Step 3 claims. There has been some reduction in that. In 2009, 2010, and 2011, an average of 25 claims per year during those 3 years. And since 2012, when we added partnering to the specifications, we've only had like 10 to 12 claims per year, so basically cut in half. There's less than $100,000 in claims per year on about a $2 billion program, which equals about 0.005%. So you can see that it's not a large dollar amount towards our program, but it certainly bodes well for partnering. In conclusion, partnering is beneficial. We certainly have seen that where partnering can be beneficial to ODOT and the contracting industry. This is somewhat preliminary with all the amount of research that I did. There's obviously a lot more that can be done to find out whether the costs of our contracts have decreased, whether we have actually reduced the numbers of claims in Step 1 and Step 2, if those have actually reduced. There's just a lot more research that could be done, but this is just the preliminary stuff. Kind of shows that they believe the contracting industry and ODOT as a whole believe that partnering is beneficial, and according to Chase Wells and to Chris Engel, will continue as part of our contracting here at ODOT for the future. We can only improve with better mentality and better buy-in from all the people that are involved with partnering here in ODOT.